the fact of the matter is that it's not just the consumer that's lying often and saying like, oh yeah, I'm coming with 4 people, but they have 6, or I'll be there at 8 and they show up at 7 instead because they really wanted 7. It's also the restaurants that know that that behavior is happening about 15% of the time. And suddenly they're overbooking, like you said. So the reason that you go to a popular restaurant in New York City or San Francisco or Chicago or LA at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, you have a reservation, and they say go wait at the bar for 45 minutes is because they lied to you, knowing that they wouldn't have that table ready by 8 o'clock. And they just said like, but if we don't, the restaurant down the street's going to lie to them. And that 8 o'clock reservation is going to go to them, even though they won't get seated till 8:45. So I wanted to solve that. That was the initial thing. Now, a whole bunch of other stuff has come since then. But in 2010,
call that in poker leveling.
Yes.
When people are like, okay, I know that you think I'm weak here, so therefore you're going to raise.
Yes.
So therefore I'm going to shove all in so that you know this is the 1 out of 5 times that I actually did have it. And I was like, and you're just leveling people. So literally the maitre d' is leveling.
It's the Princess Bride
customers.
Sicilian. The
Literally,
Sicilian. Yes. So it is very much that. And it leads to really, really bad customer experiences.
Yes.
It's bad hospitality and it's inefficient for the restaurant on so many levels. It leads to food waste. It leads to extra costs. And that was the initial problem that I was trying to solve. And then we've gotten more sophisticated. At first, we just started charging like tickets, like going to restaurants, entertainment. You don't need to eat at a restaurant
100%.
ever. So I think it's the biggest entertainment industry in the world that is completely miscategorized as non-entertainment. And it's because people are so culturally sensitive to it because it's part of our humanity. We have to eat every day as humans. And our cultures, we were talking about Greece earlier and our ancestors. Like if I say Japan to you, one of the first things that people think of is Japanese food. That's a huge part of the culture. Yeah. So as soon as you start having a conversation about the hospitality industry and any changes you want to make, you go down this rabbit hole of
very emotional,
very guarded about
trigger warning.
It is. Yes. And so, there I was wanting to pre-charge for a reservation. I mean, I made it into like Business Week and Newsweek and stuff, just saying I'm selling a ticket to a restaurant.
Yes.
And people lost their shit for no good reason. It's like, who cares? Don't come. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it's
but
just
your
an experiment I'm running.
Was sold out and you did prefix. So just saying like, listen, you have to buy your tickets. And if you don't show up for the Knicks game, okay, you didn't show up. That was your choice.
Yeah. Right.
The game's over. You burnt your tickets.
Yes. And that was my theory and it worked. And then people went, well, but what about a la carte restaurants and casual places? And I said, well, what if we just charge a $5 deposit? And what's really crazy, and this is true for you, you've done very well with all of your investments. You put $10 down that you can easily afford to lose, you will change your behavior.
100%. 100%. You now have skin in the game.
You have skin in the game. And also you're like, oh, but you made a commitment. It's way different than holding a credit card number. And then me calling you afterwards and said, oh yeah, there's a $75 cancellation fee because you no-showed. And it's a penalty then. But it's not a penalty if you choose to put the $10 in and make a small down payment. And the no-show rate goes to under 3% when you do that. And so we process millions of dollars now every day of deposits. And that was a behavior that took 10 years to get restaurants to start doing.
Amazing. And what people also don't know, having grown up in the restaurant business myself, is my dad ran his restaurant basically on almost a cash basis. He had a bowl of cash that he had in a hidden spot. He would come home from the restaurant with all the cash from the previous night, throw it in the bowl. Then he would, hand it out to the different purveyors who he was buying from. He'd hand them cash. It was just like he ran it out of his little dish in our living room back in the day.
My dad called that the three shoebox method. And the third shoebox put me through college.
Exactly. It basically is like, cash-based accounting. So if you're selling tickets, you're getting the money in advance. Now you have the float as the restaurateur, as opposed to you being chased by your purveyors who gave you 30 days to pay or 2 weeks to pay. This got to change the whole dynamic in terms of the funding of restaurants.
Yeah. And one of the things that was frustrating is that when COVID hit, there was really well-intentioned, famous chefs and restaurant owners going on CNN every day saying, but you don't understand. This is a business that we pay for last week's food costs with 2 weeks from now's revenue. And I was like, yes, and that's the whole problem.
Yes.
Like
What are you
there
people
aren't many
doing?
businesses that do that. Like that's a terrible way to do business. Even if you weren't selling tickets, let's just say you keep operating the way you are, accrue a cash reserve, get rid of your net 90 credit, call up those purveyors and say, hey, what if I pay you for the next 2 months ahead?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your food costs aren't going to be running 34% anymore. They're going to be running 24%.
Right.
Like these are business principles that I think the reason why I built Tock, the reason why I had some success in the restaurant business is because I ended up looking everything as like an expiring option.
Right.
Like everything was a derivative to me. If there was a seat that was unfilled at the end of a night, I was like, we should have sold that for like half price. We could have even sold that under food cost and had revenue that was incremental for food that was going to be wasted.
I want to welcome Harry Hurst. You know him as the co-CEO and co-founder of the company Pipe. If you've been on Twitter over the past year, you've probably heard me and my besties, a number of which got their beaks wet, talking about all the excitement around Pipe and their fundraising and the product they're bringing to market. I thought I'd have Harry come on and explain it to y'all. Harry, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jason.
The people who are buying these contracts, the annualized contracts, are looking to make 10% on their money. And the person who's selling that in advance believes they could put that capital to work that would help grow their revenues more than 10%. Is that a way to look at it?
The simple math, if you take, for example, 95 cents on the dollar and you have a $100,000 trade, can I take $95,000 today, invest that into, say, sales and marketing for growth, and generate $5,000 in net new ARR as a result of investing that? If the answer is yes, which I hope it is for any growing company, you'll cash flow break even on the trade, if not cash flow positive on the trade, and you have the net new ARR. And, you know, Bessemer Cloud Index, not sure where it is today, but anywhere between 10 to 20x on that additional 5,000 can be seen as your profit on the trade. So what we're trying to do at Pipe is turn people from having a borrower's mentality where they would traditionally go to, say, a lender and borrow money to a trader's mentality where they think of their recurring revenue streams as an asset.
All right. Thanks again, Harry, for coming on the pod and explaining that with Pipe.com, there is no debt, no loans, and most importantly to me as an angel investor, no dilution. If you sign up at Pipe.com/twist, they'll eliminate all your trading fees for 1 full year. What a generous offer. Pipe.com/twist so you can save up to tens of thousands of dollars. Happy piping, everybody.